What's going on, guys? This is David from Aqua Otter, here with my first ever manga chapter review. I'm going to be reviewing chapter 1000 of One Piece today. One Piece is a series that I've been reading for many, many years. It was one of the first manga that I ever actually read, and I can't believe that we're finally at chapter 1000. It was an amazing chapter, and I'm going to be going through and just kind of talking about some of the things that I really liked about it. So yeah, we're going to start off with the cover page, which it's the second half to the cover page for chapter 999. When you put the two chapters' cover pages together, it's an updated version of the cover page for chapter 100, which was the chapter way back when that the crew first entered the Grand Line and started off their journey. I really like this cover page a lot. Everyone is exactly in the same spot as they were back then. I really like when Oda does this, where he calls back to previous art that he's drawn, like when he refreshed the volume cover for volume number 1 all the way back during the post-time skip volume, and it was the exact same art that was on the cover of volume number 1, but with the updated crew members in their updated time skip clothing and designs. So moving actually into the chapter, the title of the chapter is Straw Hat Luffy, which I really love because after a few chapters of Luffy not really being in the spotlight, we finally have, there are a few other people who shine in this arc, and we will talk about that, but mainly it's all about him. It's about his journey. First person we see in this arc is Luffy. He walks onto floor 5 of Onigashima, and all of the enemies are completely destroyed, and it's because of the minks. Now, Inuarashi and Nekomamushi are obviously not there. They're with the rest of the scabbards, but he does see them, and he walks up to Shishilian and thanks him, and says, and this is such a core of who Luffy's character is, he says to them, "Don't worry, I haven't forgotten what you guys did to Raizo," calling back to that moment in Zou. And then it cuts away from Luffy, and this is where we get the characters that shine. You see Marco, and he's fighting King and Queen while trying to get Zoro up onto the roof of Onigashima to help Luffy with facing Kaido and Big Mom. And something cool that I saw in this chapter that I've noticed is that I guess King's like a cyborg because he's got that extendable neck. But this is what I meant earlier when I say that certain people kind of shine, because King and Queen are freaking out about Marco, who's in his Phoenix form, and he's just holding them off. He's got one of them in each wing, and these are Kaido's top guys, and Marco is just holding them with absolute ease. I can't wait for the next couple chapters because I really think that we're going to see some amazing stuff out of Marco. He's definitely going to be fighting either King or Queen, and I can't wait to see his powers expanded upon. He's been a character I've really liked all the way since his first introduction. So then Marco just basically yeets Zoro up to the top floor and stays there to hold off King and Queen by himself. And it cuts away to Momonosuke and Yamato, who are continuing their conversation from the last chapter. So Yamato gives Momonosuke Odin's journal and says that on the night in which Odin was killed, the next day she went to the ruins of Odin Castle and found the journal in the riverbank, and she doesn't know who put it there, but it's kind of like during the incident in Robin's backstory when they burned down Ohara, and all of the librarians that lived on Ohara, they go into the Great Library and they just start throwing the books out the window into the river because they want to save it. And I think this is really important because this journal has all of Odin's journey in it. It has Odin's journey from the time that he left Wano on Whitebeard's ship and then eventually transitioned over onto Roger's ship, and then the final journey to Laugh Tale. It's got everything in there. So Momonosuke, I don't think that the Straw Hats will learn because of the moment back on Sabaody with Rayleigh when Luffy straight up says, don't tell me, I don't want to know what the One Piece is. But it's interesting because the One Piece, what the One Piece is, what they found on Laugh Tale, what Odin and Roger and Rayleigh found there, might be in Odin's journal. And she even tells Momonosuke that. She says it contains everything there is to know about Odin's grand life and the world he experienced. So more than likely that journal is going to be super important, and now Momonosuke has it. So as she's telling him about this journal, it flashes to Law and Kid and Killer, who are all trying to get up to the roof of Onigashima to also fight Kaido. And she starts talking more about her interaction with Ace when Ace came to Wano to try and kill Kaido. And it goes back to the moment in the flashback, and this part has me really stumped. It goes back to the moment right after the flashback from 999, where he's talking about his brother. there's a split moment in time that is skipped here, because the flashback that happens in this chapter is Ace kind of like freaking out, and he's saying like, oh no, like, I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that. But you don't find out what he was supposed to say. But you do know in this flashback, he says, that's my brother's dream. Like, that happens at the end of his dream. And he tells Yamato, like, don't laugh. Like, I laughed when I first heard it, but no one else can laugh because I think that Luffy can make it happen. And this is a moment that had me really thinking, because he's referencing the moment all the way back during the post-war arc where it has the flashback to Luffy and Ace and Sabo when they were kids. And Ace says to them, well, if you want to be a pirate and like you want to make a name for yourself in the world, then I want to be. And you don't find out what he says. And you're assuming, because the whole series, Luffy's catchphrase is like, oh, look, he said the thing, you know, I'm going to be king of the pirates. I'm going to be king of the pirates. You're assuming that he says that, you know, well, if that's what your dream is, I want to be king of the pirates. And they laugh at it because it's a crazy dream. But there's this theme that is always associated with Luffy, and it's all the way from the first chapter, it's associated like that, where, you know, you meet Shanks and Shanks meets Luffy, and Luffy gets what you find out was Roger's straw hat. You know, it's Luffy's straw hat now, but you find out that it was Roger's straw hat. Eventually, he gets that from Shanks, and Shanks gives it to Luffy because Luffy says the same thing that Roger says, and it just keeps drawing this comparison between Roger and Luffy. And in Oden's flashback in the Wano arc, you get that moment where Oden meets Roger for the first time, and he's with Whitebeard, and Roger is trying to say, like, please, like, I have this journey that I want to go on, I have this thing that I want to accomplish, but I need Oden, please lend me Oden for 1 year, like, I just need him to decipher the poneglyphs so that I can get to the final island, and then when I get to the final island, I will finally be. And the same thing happens, where it cuts away and you don't hear what he says. And if I know Oda, this is on purpose. I don't know what it is. I cannot possibly even begin to theorize what it is that Luffy says, or what it is that Roger says, what their true dream is, but I don't think that it's just to become the king of the pirates. There's gotta be something else. There's gotta be a reason, and it is gonna be a reveal. It's gonna be a hell of a reveal when we finally find out what those words are, what it is that Luffy says that makes people see Roger in him. And I think it's all gonna tie back to the mystery of the D. I'm not sure, because a lot of people theorize that the D is this inherited will that gets passed down from person to person. And as we know, Gold Roger, Gold D Roger, Monkey D Luffy, I think that Luffy is the person who inherits Roger's will, and I can't wait to find out what it is that he says. But when Ace says that in this flashback, getting back onto the chapter, when Ace says that, he says to Yamato, don't laugh at him, like, don't laugh at him, and Yamato hops up onto the barrel of sake that they're drinking and says, I'm not going to laugh at him. And she's got tears rolling down her face, because in her mind, she doesn't tell Ace this, but in her mind, she says, those are the words that the king of the pirates spoke. They're the words that stunned Oden, because in Oden's flashback, when Roger said that, Oden was so dumbfounded and so inspired by what Roger said that he joined Roger, and he begged Whitebeard, please let me accompany him on his final journey. And then he tells Ace, you know, there was a great man who once said the same thing, so I would never laugh at him. Your brother is amazing. And so after this, Yamato gives Ace his Vivre card and says, you know, explains to him what it is. So this is really cool, because this is a thing that was introduced all the way back in Alabasta, like within the first 200 chapters of the series. When Ace shows up and he gives Luffy the Vivre card, you finally find out where Ace got his Vivre card. Yamato made it for him, and they part, and she talks about how one day, of course, Ace's Vivre card just burned up and disappeared, and that's when she learned about what happened to him. She learned everything about Ace, and she heard about Luffy for the first time because of the events that happened at Marineford. And this part is where she says one of my favorite lines in the entire chapter, where she talks about what Oden wrote in his journal. And she says that Oden said, over 20 years in the future, powerful pirates leading the next generation will come swarming into the new world. And if he is dead by then, they will be the ones who will strike down Kaido. And it's accompanied with this amazing double page spread of Kid and Killer and Luffy and Zoro and Law all staring down Kaido and Big Mom. And it's just this amazing, it's like, here's the worst generation. They're not all of them are here, because obviously Beggie's off doing whatever with his wife after the events of Whole Cake. But like, most of the worst generation is here. This new generation of pirates that everyone's been talking about, that we were introduced in Sabaody. You know, you got Law and Kid and Killer and Zoro and Luffy, and Apu is here, and Drake is here, and Hawkins is here. Like, they're all on Wano, and something big is gonna go down at the end of this arc. And then after this stare down, we get one of my favorite Luffy moments in this whole chapter, which is they're all staring down Kaido and Big Mom, and Kaido's just talking to Big Mom and says like, oh, look at this kid. This is the one. Guess what he said to me. Guess what he said right to my face. And she goes, oh yeah, I know that one. He destroyed my castle. And he just pulls a straight Goku and just walks right by them. Like, and I don't know if we're supposed to infer that they didn't notice him, just completely walk right by them, but he literally just walks straight past them because he notices something. Right at the beginning of this page, there's the panel where he's like, and what he notices is right behind them is all of the scabbards. And Kaido, of course, has absolutely decimated them, and he just walks, completely ignores the Yonko, just such a Luffy thing. Like, he's got Kaido and Big Mom right in front of him, and he completely ignores them to go check on his friends. And he walks up to Kinemon, and Kinemon is just battered, just absolutely destroyed, and he picks him up and asks him if he's okay, and he apologizes for taking so long. And he looks at all the scabbards, they're all destroyed. Raizo is down, Kiku, everyone, Inuarashi, Nekomamashi, and Kinemon says to him, he tears streaming down his face, he goes, when I die, I have nothing to show Lord Odin. I have nothing to show him but my shame. I wasn't able to save Wano. I wasn't able to avenge his death. We couldn't kill Kaido. And he grabs Luffy by the shoulder and he asks him, and we see this time and again, and I'm immediately flashing back to Arlong Park with that moment with Nami in tears on the ground. Luffy has done absolutely nothing up to this point in this arc, and she's on the ground, she's in tears, and she asks him for help. And that's exactly what happens with Kinemon here, is he grabs Luffy by the shoulder and he says, will you put the fate of Wano on your back? And no hesitation, of course I will, because it's my friend's country. He doesn't need a reason. He doesn't need that I'm gonna take down the Yonko. This is the whole reason I'm here. I'm not gonna save Wano because Kaido's a bad guy. I'm doing it because this is my friend's home and I need no other reason. And Kaido comes up right behind him, raises up his weapon and yells for Luffy, like, you should be paying attention to me. Remember what happened last time. And we remember what happened last time. The last time that Luffy faced Kaido, he got one shot by Kaido. And all that Luffy does completely ignores him. Just yells out for Law, says, Law, send him down. Law uses his powers. Boop. All the scabbards are gone, hopefully they're in a safe place. And then Luffy just jumps up into the sky as Kaido brings his weapon down, completely avoids the attack, yells out, Gear Third, Gum Gum, has the flashbacks to everything that has been leading up to this point. The first panel you see in the flashback is that moment on Zou when all the minks fall to their knees in front of Kinemon and Momo and Kanjuro and say, Raizo is here, Raizo is safe. And it's everything that's been leading up to this, the entire story. Momonosuke yelling out that he wants to defeat Kaido, Yasu being crucified and killed, Old Man Hyo in tears saying, the sparks of rebellion still live within Wano, punches Kaido in the face, and his fist is like on fire, and this isn't the first time we've seen like a fire punch attack, but like it's this white flame, and when he connects with Kaido, it is completely different from the last time. Like, if you go back and you compare the panel where Luffy connects with Kaido in his first fight with his punch, the Gear Third punch, and there, he's in his dragon form, obviously, this time he's in his human form, but it's so different. Like, I love how the lines, like the actual line work, it looks like a sketch. It's like, I didn't care about inking in your line work. It almost looks like he literally punched him out of frame. And this is where we get the new attack, Gum Gum Red Rock. And Kaido goes smashing into the ground. His head is completely set ablaze. And this is obviously the upgraded version of Gum Gum Red Hawk, which is Luffy's move that he uses in honor of Ace. And Rock, the giant mythological bird, it's an upgraded version of that move. And it just means so much because, like, the Ace is intrinsically tied to this country as well, and he wanted to come back. He promised everyone that he would come back and he would save them, and he couldn't. So now Luffy is taking up that mantle, hits him with the Gum Gum Red Rock. Big Mom is freaking out. What are you doing? How could you let him hit you like that? And then we get the best line in the entire chapter. I am Monkey D. Luffy. You see Kaido. His face is burnt up from the attack, and I'm the man who will surpass you to be king of the pirates. And right before he says that, the little panel before he says, I am the man who will surpass you, he takes off his hat. It's reminiscent of the panel in chapter 1 when Luffy was given the hat by Shanks, but also it's the silhouette of Joy Boy, which is the character that we've been wondering about. So this is like, is Luffy the reincarnation of Joy Boy? the person that everyone said was going to come to Wano, the person who promised the mermaid princess back in Fishman Island that he was going to come for them. And then he says, yep, I'm the man who will surpass you to become the king of the pirates. And I love this so much. It's the end of the chapter, and it's all the callbacks in this chapter. The first time that Law, Kid, and Luffy were together, Luffy punched a dragon, and it changed the world. And now here they are together again in Wano, and Luffy punches a dragon, and it's going to change the world. And back in chapter 1, Luffy begins his journey by punching a fish. It was his biggest obstacle up to that point, the Sea King that lived off the coast of the Goa Kingdom. And he's in this little dinghy, and he gum pistols the fish, and the same way chapter 1 ends, I'm going to be king of the pirates, chapter 1000 ends. He punches a fish, because as we found out at the end of chapter 999, Kaido's devil fruit is the Ua Ua no Mi, the fish fruit, and he punches the fish. I'm going to be the king of the pirates. It was such a great chapter. It was an amazing chapter. I have so many questions, and I really, at this point, up until this point, I really didn't think that the Scabbards were going to survive Wano. I definitely now think that the Scabbards will survive Wano. I also know there were a lot of theories that at the end of this arc, it was going to end in failure for the Alliance, that Kaido was going to get away, that Big Mom was going to get away, and it was going to set up something further down the line. I do not think so. We have 5 of the supernovas face to face with Kaido, and I know that Big Mom is there. I do think that maybe Big Mom will get away, but I think Kaido is going down. If one Gum Gear 3rd move, the Red Rock, is able to absolutely look, I don't think that it hurt Kaido bad enough to defeat him, but if one Gum Red Rock was enough to actually hurt him, and he still has to deal with Law and Kid, and we have no clue what Kid is capable of. We've never seen the full extent of his powers. All we know is that in the past couple of chapters, Kid has amassed this giant amount of scrap metal, so who knows what he's going to do with that, because we still don't even know what Kid's devil fruit does. We assume that it has something to do with magnetism, and Law is there, and you got Zoro, who is now in possession of Enma, which is one of the 2 blades, one of the only 2 blades who are ever able to hurt Kaido. I think Kaido's going down here. I don't think it's going to be failure for the Alliance. But all in all, though, it was a beautiful chapter. I don't think it was what people expected out of chapter 1000. I think people really expected some kind of earth-shattering moment. But I personally think that we found out so much in this chapter, and so much has been alluded to. I really think that sometime soon we're going to find out what Luffy's dream actually is, what it is that he said that reminds everyone of Roger, because I don't think it's just that I'm going to be the king of the pirates, because he says I'm going to be the king of the pirates all the time. He picks up the phone, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will be king of the pirates. There's stuff going on in the world, and I think that we are so close to finding out what is happening in the world, and Wano is really shaping up to be one of the best arcs in all of One Piece. It's absolutely amazing. But that was a little rambly. I don't know how long this video is even going to be, and I don't know if it even made any form of sense, but I just wanted to sit here and vomit into a microphone. This is something that I really want to do a little bit more of. I'm posting this on my personal YouTube channel, but I also have a gaming YouTube channel / Twitch channel that I do with my brother, where we play video games and a number of other things. If you like me, if you like hearing me ramble, this is kind of what we do. For the time being, I'm only going to be doing One Piece chapter reviews. I might branch out into some other stuff, but yeah, if you liked it, please stick around, hit a like and follow, because there's going to be some more stuff coming out. You can also, like I said, check me out at Division 9 Gaming is our Twitch and YouTube channel, so you can find us over there. Thank you guys for your time, and here's looking forward to chapter 1001.